where is he? He is in a wine press trying to beat out wheat. Now, if you know anything about threshing grain, you know that you need wind. And the wind's at the higher elevation. So where Gideon should be is up on a hill, threshing his wheat, allowing the wind to blow the chaff away. But instead he is hiding down in the low parts, down in the pits. For many years, Doris used to force us to go pick berries. We were oppressed people in our family. Very oppressed people. Yeah. And so she would get this mean look on her face. We're going to pick berries today, and you're not coming home until you fill your bucket. So we would go out. Not really. We would go out there as a family. And so everybody had a quota. They had to get so much. And you know, it's mosquitoes, and it's hot. But when the breeze came up, we would winnow the berries. No, that's not right. Doris would winnow the berries because she didn't trust anybody else. And she would take her bucket and pour it out in another bucket underneath. And the wind would blow the leaves away. Because boys aren't very good at picking berries. They pick a lot of leaves with their berries. And that's where we find Gideon when we meet him. Instead of being up on a high spot where he can really thresh his wheat and have the chaff blow away, he's hiding. He's down in the pits. Why is that? It's because they are oppressed people. And that oppression comes because they have been disobedient to God. Instead of living in their homes, the people are living in caves, in dens. Instead of being leaders in the land, they are hiding. Instead of having plenty, they're barely getting by. And instead of courage, the people have fear. And that's where we find Gideon, afraid, hiding in the pits of life. He's scared. Reminds me about the mother who sent her 5-year-old son down into the basement to get a can of vegetables. But it was dark down there, and he couldn't reach the light. And his mom told him to go get the can of vegetables. And he said, "But Mom, it's dark down there." And she said, "It's okay, son. Jesus will be with you. Now go get him." And he got to the door, and he opened the door, and he shouted, "Jesus, will you hand me that can of vegetables, please?" He's afraid to go. And that's where we find Gideon, afraid. And where so many times we find ourselves in the days that we live in the time that we live in. As Christians, afraid to be bold. Look at verse 7. It says, when the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, they're oppressed. They cry out. Verse 8, God sends a prophet. And the prophet tells them the very words of God, that you have been disobedient. Sometimes I feel that's where I'm at. I understand that I don't always obey the words of God, but I need to. The story progresses from there, and we find that Gideon is afraid, oppressed. Probably he's wondering, why is my life in the pits like this? Why are things so bad? And God shows up. God shows up where he's at, there in the pit. Verse 11, now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth